What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Makaya. If you're a returning subscriber, viewer. Alright, so let's just get into it. You guys know the drill. I'm not going to do this long intro. Here we go. So I do want to make a disclaimer of what is probably obvious. I know the title says one thing, of course, but obviously I honestly don't regret anything in terms of my college experience. I think that what is for me is always going to come to me. I'm very content with the way things played out. I had overall a great college experience, but you know, there's always going to be things that you may look back in retrospect and think you would have done differently, maybe in another life if I were to go back to college for whatever reason, and this would be a different route that I would take or different things that I would do. So yeah, here are just a little bit of things that I would have done differently if I were to go back to college back then. Not like 2020 or 2021 type of thing, like before the whole pandemic thing, you know, while we were still able to be normal. So number one is really important. I would have kept a digital file of just everything that I needed, specifically my admissions material, transcripts, stuff like that, FAFSA, any important usernames regarding loans or FAFSA or anything like that. I would definitely just keep it in one digital file. It just makes it easier so that you don't have to keep on resetting password, resetting username, forgetting it, starting over, going through loops and everything to get onto different accounts, because you have so many different accounts that you have to keep up with and log on to. Your student whatever thing that you guys use. For my school, we used a thing called iLearn, and so you had to keep up with that to do any of your assignments. And there's just so many accounts, so I would have just kept it all in one place so that I didn't have to jump all the way around and go through hoops to find stuff whenever I needed it. It just made everything a lot more difficult. So yeah. Number two is I would have done more exploring around the city. I lived there for 3 years-ish kinda, and I feel like I just barely scratched the surface. I did not do much exploring. I went out sometimes and I went to downtown, and I did get out and explore and went on hikes, but there's just so much to the city of San Francisco where I went to school at that it's just I could have dedicated, you know, at least one day a week to do something fun and go out and see stuff. I feel like I did a lot of my exploring, or I just got very familiar with the Daly City area rather than San Francisco itself. I was just always in Daly City, just running errands or doing stuff like that. So I got very familiar with that side of town and kind of could drive around there without navigation and get back home. But when it comes to San Francisco, there was just so much. And I think part of it is I just never, traveling around San Francisco is just, it can be very stressful, and it could just be a whole day type of activity, because whether you're taking Muni or Ubering or you're driving I cannot just go somewhere simple and drive and without having to worry about parking. My butt cheeks were always clenched whenever I was driving the streets of San Francisco. It didn't matter, it just had to be on high alert, find parking. Yeah, it's just a whole task. But because Muni was free as a student, I could have done more, you know, just getting on there and kind of just exploring around and seeing what's out there. Because now, of course, everything is a little bit different in the city. It doesn't have the same feel, I guess, because of the whole pandemic. So I would have liked to take advantage of that while I could and just do stuff, you know? Number three is a big one, something that I was slipping on. I should have, I should have done this way long ago. And that is to start doing my YouTube vlogs back then. When I kind of started to get into YouTube, I did start to post a couple of videos here and there while I was in college, but it was just really difficult because number one, I didn't have a solid enough computer to be able to edit on. So whenever I needed to edit stuff or edit videos that I posted back then, they were all done using the library computers, which is a task in itself too, because you have to go to the library, then you have to find a good space and be able to pick a computer, desktop, or whatever. There's like a time limit, you have to reserve your space sometimes, so it just was a little more tricky to be able to like edit my videos and post them. I found ways to do it and it wasn't that bad, but the other thing was that like number 2, I just didn't have as much time. And I know time could be found in between, but I was just so focused on doing either homework or being at work, because I worked a lot of hours back then too, and I had like 2 jobs at once. So it was just something that wasn't the top priority for me at the time, so I didn't really think about it. But looking back, like if I would have dedicated myself a little bit more, like I could have made some really good school content that I think a lot of people would have been interested in watching, fresh, and I was experiencing them at the moment. And there's just so much that was lost that I could have like put out for you guys, and you guys could have been able to see a lot more of like my daily life back then, and I could have looked back on that to remember how the grind was. But it's all good, you know, we're moving forward. But yeah, I just think it would have been cool to kind of do like those college vlogs and been able to kind of show you guys what I was up to. But yeah, that's something that I would have definitely jumped on a lot sooner. And then lastly, I talked about this a little bit in another one of my videos, which I'll put up in the cards, but I would have followed through with my intramural sports. So if you don't know, I'll just give you a little bit of background. It was either my freshman or sophomore year. They kind of are blurred now, but one of those 2 years I sought out to do intramural sports, or intramural basketball I should say specifically, because I've always played basketball while growing up, since like the 2nd grade, playing all throughout high school, up into my senior year, still played. And then when I got to college, I didn't play sports, so it was a kind of weird adjustment to like not be on a team. And it was, yeah, it's just kind of weird when you're like used to playing sports all throughout school, and then when you get to college, like not playing is kind of weird. I did have the gym, so that was great. But yeah, I tried to do it either freshman or sophomore year, and the team was just, it didn't work out because they were just flaky and we didn't have enough players and they wouldn't show up. So we literally only had 1 game and we kind of sucked. And after that, like people just kept flaking and not showing up to the games, and so yeah, it just kind of like died out. And after that, I never really took much action to looking into it anymore. Mind you, they also had like other sports, flag football, which I was probably interested in too, and everything was done through an app. So yeah, I just never tried to look into it after that. I think I just kind of got distracted with other stuff and never really thought about it. But yeah, I definitely would have like tried harder to look into it, to at least for a year been able to play like with the team, like scrimmage a little bit, because it was all just for fun anyways. It's not like we were finna be like traveling around or taking it too seriously, but it would have just been nice to kind of stay in touch with that. Yeah, and I think it just would have been cool. Like there were times that I went to the gym at City Sports and would be able to shoot around and, you know, go outside and go to find a park and shoot around there, but it just was very like once in a blue moon that I would do that. If I could go back, I would probably try harder to do that. And even if my team didn't work out, then ask to like join another team. There was a lot more that I could have done. I just didn't try or didn't look into it. So yeah, I know this was a little bit of a quicker video, but I just wanted to share with you some of the things that I would have done differently looking back in hindsight of my college year. I know there are probably some that I'm forgetting that I'll think about later, and I could do a part 2 if that's the case. But I want to know, what are some things, if you guys have been to college or whatever, no matter what college you went to, whether it was a 2-year, 4-year, whatever, what are some things that you guys wish you would have done differently back then? Maybe yours is like, I would have partied less, or I would have taken this more seriously, or I would have joined a sorority. I don't know. I do have a story time about the time I went to a couple of rush events and sororities, and it was kind of crazy. So if you're interested in hearing about that experience, then let me know by giving this video a like, or commenting it below. But yeah, I'm just gonna end the video right here. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.